All right, guys, we are on to the last layer. Now, I'm not gonna lie. So at this point, you should be able to have your cubes, if you memorize those two, which are really easy. I'm sure everybody can get here. Everybody can get here by the second day, as long as you do it a couple times, guaranteed, okay? That's gonna leave you with a cube that looks like this, okay? It's pretty much 2/3, technically, right, solved, except for this top layer. That's the only thing that's not solved. Everything else is solved. And unfortunately, the last layer has the most algorithms. There's 4 that you need to solve it, but you know, they're really not that bad, okay? So for the bottom layer, you start with, what we do is we first make a cross. Remember when we made a cross from the first layer, the white cross, ignoring the corners? We're gonna do the same thing with the top layer, which would be yellow in this case. We're gonna make a cross of yellow, ignoring the corners, okay? And how we do that is because, once again, this is, I kind of designed it to be like the easiest way to learn it. So there's only one algorithm for the bottom cross. And the trade-off is, it's not the fastest, because there's only one algorithm that you have to memorize. You might have to do it more than once, okay? But there's only one, so it's easy. That's the difference, really, is if you memorize just this, you can solve the cube in about a minute. But if you memorize, 20 more algorithms based on how the patterns are, then you can solve it much faster, maybe 15 seconds or 20 seconds, right? So that's the difference. So this is designed to get you to solve the cube, for people that don't know how, in a minute or less. And then from there, it's on you to do what it takes to be extremely fast, okay? All right, so given that, the one algorithm that we have to learn for the cross is front, then up, right, up prime, right prime, and then front prime, or bring the front back, basically. And that looks like this, okay? I use my ring finger, so I'm holding the cube like this, the ring finger, there's front, okay? And then the very last move to bring it back, front prime, is this ring finger. So front, boom, front, bring it back, front, bring it back, or front, front prime, front, front prime, okay? Okay, keep that in mind. So front, up right, up prime, right prime, and front prime. So watch, front, right, up prime, right prime, front back, okay? So if we do that, we know we change the pattern on the top layer, but we don't mess up anything we've done before. So watch, the cube is all solved except for this last layer, right? Now watch, I'm gonna do that move that I did. Front, up, right, up prime, right prime, front prime, there. I'm moving this, but look, I don't mess up the bottom, okay? So what we're looking for is exactly this. We're looking for, this already has it. We're looking for an L, and it doesn't matter if this is yellow either, this green one. We're just paying attention to this. So an example would be, I'm just gonna do it a little fast so I can see it. There's an example, okay? And let me see if I can change this around a little bit. Okay, there. So in a case like this, where I just spin around a little bit, we're presented with this, okay? We're looking for this L right there. We ignore everything else. We ignore the green one, this whole edge, this whole, we're just looking for this. If we have that, we put it in the upper left-hand corner, okay? On this cube, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter that this is solid, okay? We're only concerned with this pattern right there. Ignore everything else, right? Except for these 3 cubes, okay? So those go in the upper left, just like that. Once we do that, and I do my one pattern for the bottom cross, then we know that we're gonna get the cross the very next move. So watch, if I do it from here, boom, There's my cross. Ignore this, it's just a bonus piece, but I've got the cross done, okay? The same thing here. Now, if I did it from the wrong way, like it goes upper left, if I do it from, say, bottom left, it's not gonna happen, watch. See, it didn't solve. There's my pattern though. This time I'm gonna put it in the upper left like it belongs. And now when I do it, it's gonna solve the cross, guaranteed, watch. There it is. In this case, I got a bonus of these, but it doesn't matter. You just look for the cross. All that matters is that this cube, and these two cubes are yellow. So you're making a cross, okay? Okay, so that's pretty much it for the cross. So let's do, let me just scramble them up again. Now, the practice for that, I use ring finger, and, you know, just get the pattern for it. The pattern feels like this. I'll do it slow. You do it over and over and over. Okay? And then you get a little bit faster. You know, flick, flick. But it's basically front, up, right prime, flick it back. So use your ring finger. Flick, up, prime, right prime, flick it back, okay? Now, anytime you have a long piece, you wanna make it horizontal. Same with this, okay? Because if you just keep doing this pattern, it's eventually gonna solve. But what you wanna do is you wanna do it in as few moves as possible. So when you have something horizontal, don't hold it vertical, make it like this, horizontal. Now watch, flick, up, prime, right prime, flick back. That gave me my 3 cube pattern. Now let's do this one. The same thing, my 3 cube pattern. Okay. I put in the upper left. Now watch. Now when I do it, I'm going to get my cross. As long as this pattern's in the upper left, I'm going to get it guaranteed. There it is. This one. There it is. So, and like I said, ignore, the only thing that matters is your cross is yellow. Ignore the edges. The only thing that matters is your cross is yellow. So that's all there is to getting the cross. Simple as that. Let me scramble it up. Okay, so I have a long bar. I'm going to put it horizontal. Boom. There's what I'm looking for. It looks like an M, but the only thing I care about is that pattern. Once I see that, if it can be upside down, it doesn't matter. Once you need to identify, and it's just an L, right? It doesn't matter if this is yellow or what color it is. I just care about this. And once I see that, I put it in the upper left. And then I do it one more time. And I get my cross. Remember, ignore these, it doesn't matter. Same thing here. I'm going to put my bar horizontal. And there is what I'm looking for. Upper left. There's my cross, okay? So that is it for the cross. So you want to practice that algorithm over and over and over, but that gets your cross every time, okay? Next is going to be anti-soon. There's soon, anti-soon. What is the best way to explain this? Let me see here. I originally was going to show soon for this, but I'm going to show anti-soon. Soon and anti-soon are just a pattern that looks like this. Some people call it a fish, but you can identify it. You see how they call this a chameleon, right? Because it's all solved except the yellow eyes are on the outside of the head. If they were this way, facing down, or facing this way, they call that headlights because it kind of looks like headlights. This, it looks like they're looking out of the side, so they call it a chameleon, right? This pattern is like a fish, right? So for example, from here just to get there's another fish pattern. You can see these fish patterns, see? So this is soon and anti-soon, and let me show you the difference. There, okay. This is called soon, this is called anti-soon. Okay, can anybody figure out why? What's the difference? The difference is this cube right here. If you point your fish to the lower left, okay, you're going to have, or the upper right, I guess, let's say this. If you point it to the upper right, okay, because everything else is going to the upper right, so let's just go with that. You point it to the upper right. This cube tells whether it's soon or anti-soon. If the yellow is facing out to the side with your fish pointing upper right, or upper left, sorry, it's called soon. If your arrow or your fish is pointing to the upper left and your yellow piece is facing down towards you, it's called anti-soon. I solve with soon more. The problem is, because all this move does is turn the whole thing yellow. That's the next step. We need to make the top yellow. Soon is a weird, it's fast, but it's a weird move that uses a lot of dexterity. It goes like that. Sorry, I did that kind of backwards, but it uses a weird maneuver like that, and it's kind of hard to do. Anti-soon is very, very, very simple. It's basically uses this movement and this movement. That's it. So it's easier. So I'm going to go with that to show you because it's by far easier. So you're talking left flick, right, with your index finger, and back and forth. So you can hold the cube and you're literally going to move this right side back and forth, and your left side is going to just flick. That's it, okay? So the move for anti-soon is right prime, up prime, right, up prime, right prime, up to right. Sounds crazy. All it is this. Look, it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So what it is exactly this. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. Got it? Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. And I would say that as opposed to saying this, right? I would literally say, you know, back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. So this is back, this is up, this is flick, this is flick, flick, okay? Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. And the thing that's going to make, because the goal is to turn this all yellow, the thing that's going to make it is to get the soon pattern or anti-soon pattern, and then I'll show you where to put it. Watch. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. So let's do it again. Let's go here. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. And just like, let's take this one. We'll get this one there. We'll go, I'll give it a soon pattern like this there. So this is anti-soon. So, and we know that because when it's pointing upper left, the yellow is pointing down, okay? Now if we do this move, it's gonna change the whole thing yellow. Watch. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. There it is, yellow. This is anti-soon also. I point it in the, I look for my fish. I point it in the upper left and watch. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. Guaranteed, okay? Super easy, super easy. So let's do it again. And again. Let's kind of scramble it up. Okay, so you take the cube, they're mixed up, we don't know where we're starting, you just grab it. You look at that, you're like, I don't have a fish, okay? Just do the move. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. Look at the cube, I still don't have a fish. Do it again. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. Nope, do it again. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. Ooh, I got my fish. And it's anti-soon. I know that because when it's pointing upper left, the yellow is towards the bottom. So now when I do it, I know the whole thing's gonna turn yellow. Watch. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. There it is. This one, let's do it. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. There's my anti-soon. Make sure it's pointing the right way. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. Now, if you do it and it doesn't turn, let's say you've done it 7 times, you'll get used to where, like, an example is, let's say you get a pattern like this, right? Or it's kind of a bad example. A pattern like this, right? So once you just do it, you'll know. Like if you keep going from cross to that thing to cross to that thing, maybe just rotate the cube once and do it again, right? It's the same move. See? Boom, got it. There it is. So you just do it enough. Remember the trade-off. It's super easy to learn because there's one move, but you're not going to be a 5-second solver, right? But you're going to do it in a minute or less, okay? I'm telling you, you're going to do it in a minute or less. So this is anti-soon. That's what we want. It's going to work this time. Every time, okay? Every time. So that is anti-soon in a nutshell, right? You want to practice that algorithm. Looks terrible in print. Right prime, up prime, right prime, up 2, right. It's easier to think of just like this. You're going back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, and you're going flick, 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 flick. That's it. The pattern on the left hand's going flick, 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 flick. So back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. So that's the pattern. Okay? And there's my soon. I do it one more time. I know it's going to work this time. Back, flick, up, flick, back, flick, flick, up. There it is. Okay, that is anti-soon. So the corners from here, once again, it looks extremely terrible, and you got to learn it, but it's easier as a pattern. So now you're to the point where you have the cube solved. You've got the top yellow. Well, you've got your original white. You've got your 2 layers done, right? And your top is all yellow. You just have your edges out of place, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to look for, if you have 2 of them that are properly correct, you're either going to have 2 that are right, or you're going to have 2 corners that are right, okay? If you have 2 that are adjacent, it's going to take 1 move. If you have them in opposite diagonal corners, it's going to take 2 moves. That's the only difference, okay? So what you're doing, let's say the cube's just like this. You're going to look for 2 that are kind of the same. It'll probably be easier. Just spin them over the right colors. So we have 2 that are correct, okay? Put those 2 in back. And the hardest part of this is the only move on the whole sheet. First layer, second layer, third layer is the only move where you've got this little X. You see this tiny little X? That just means you take the whole cube and you rotate it on its axis. And you do the move like that. So it's kind of a pain because it's not what we're used to, but it's the only time you do that for this one move. Really simple, okay? So what you're going to do, you're going to take your 2 that are done, you're going to put them in the back. You're going to tilt the cube back. So now this becomes the new orientation, okay? And I'll just show you this. It's going to be right prime, up, right prime, down 2, right, up prime, down 2, right 2. Sounds horrible, right? But in actuality, what it is basically this. I tilt up, okay? And I'm going to go basically like this. I'm going to take my, you're going to hold the right side and rotate. And then you're going to deal with flicking the top. So you're going to have your finger ready here. And you're going to deal with flicking the bottom, which is your ring finger. And usually the bottom you're flicking twice, which means it doesn't matter if you use your right side or your left side because you're going around the same amount of 2 times with the left hand is the same as 2 times with the right hand, okay? So you can do whatever's comfortable. But the pattern is this. I put my 2 in the back, I tilt it back, that's the X, and I go flick, 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 bring it back, flick, 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 and then I spin the whole thing back, okay? So now I wind up with all the corners are correct and just the edges are different, okay? So I've got 4 edges that are out of place, but basically the whole cube solved except for these 4 pieces, okay? Once again, I tilt it back, and let's do it again. Flick, 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 bring it back, okay? And I've got my orange is correct. I'll line them up. So I've got 2 correct and 2 not correct. I take my correct ones, I put them in back, just like that. Okay, this is the only move I tilt the cube on its, I tilt it backwards, okay? And this is my new orientation, okay? So watch slowly. I take my hand here, okay? Flick, 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 bring it back, flick, bring it back, flick, flick, and then spin it to line it back up, okay? And actually it solved the cube. And you'll see that there's another move that's required to solve it, but sometimes it'll just solve. I mean, you're right up to the very end, so in that case, it just solved it, you know? Let me do the same thing. Okay, so now I've got green is correct, corner-wise, right? So I put it in the back. I tilt the cube on its axis, and I go, you know, right prime, which is back, so flick. I turn it again back, this time the bottom, twice, flick, flick. I bring this forward once and flick with the opposite hand, flick. I bring it back and I flick twice with the bottom again, flick, flick, and then I just line it back up, which is rotating it twice, like that, okay? And in this case, I have a scenario where because all that is supposed to do is make your corners right. Sometimes it will solve the cube, okay? So now let's take this one. We've got a situation where we're looking for, now this one, here's a good example. I don't have 2 adjacent cubes that are proper. I have this is right, and the opposite corner is right. So all that means is I'm gonna do the same move. I'm gonna have to do it 2 times. That's all that means, okay? So watch, I flip it back, watch. Flick, 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 bring it back. And now that gives me 2 that are adjacent, like this. I take those 2 and I do what? Remember? I put them in the back. Then I flip it like this. Remember, this is the only move we flip it. I do the same thing again, okay? Flick, 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 bring it back. And now I have, this is a very common scenario where you have three sides are basically done. You've only got 3 cubes out of place, okay? That's it, 3 cubes out of place. So that is last corners. The very last thing to solve the puzzle is last edges. And it's another doozy of an algorithm. But remember, they look horrible, but once you get used to that pattern, you know, flick, 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 your fingers just do it. So it looks, you're not really memorizing, you know, right prime, right up. You're doing that to get your fingers used to it, and you're memorizing which way your fingers turn. So it's much easier than the way it looks on paper, for the record, okay? Okay, so with this one, when you have a case like this, where and this is very common, you have 3 sides, you're gonna wind up here a lot. 3 sides solved, 3 cubes not. You take your solved, white's at the bottom, okay? You take your solved side, which is blue, and you put it in the back, okay? So that's how you're holding your cube, okay? No more tilting. That was only for that one. The rest of it is white on bottom like all the rest, okay? Okay, so we put our solved side in back, and we do this last move, which I'll hold it up to memorize. It is right up prime, right up, right up, right up prime, right prime, up prime, R2. It looks terrible. I do it like this. Right up, boom, 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 and then bring it back. The cube solved, okay? In this case, because there's 4 cubes out of place. Now, keep in mind, to be faster, there's different algorithms that aren't on this sheet. Like if you see this, because I know some people are gonna say, there's a faster way. Well, yeah, with this particular one, you could, just by spinning the middle, get it right. But we're gonna do it with just one algorithm. It's just easier. That way you just have one to learn, okay? All right, so from here, we do the same exact thing that we did on this one. I'm gonna use this as an example again. Remember, and I think of it in groupings. The first thing I do is go, boom. Then from there, I rotate this, flick, again, flick, up, over, back, which lines the white up, move it over to the side, and spin it back in place, okay? That's it. Put my solid side in back, do the same thing again. Up flick, right flick, up, back flick, back. See? Put it back, spin it in place. Take my solid side, put it in back. Now it's gonna solve in this one, okay? So think of it in groups. So it would be right up prime, then right up, right up, right up prime, right prime, up prime, and spin it back in place, and the cube solved, okay? In this case, there is no solid side to put in back, so you just do it wherever, right? Right up prime, right up, right up, right up prime, right prime, up prime, bring it back. When I say bring it back, it's because the white's way up here. You could say right 2, but just line it back up, you know? Okay, and now we have a solid side is green. What do we do with the solid side? We put it in back, right? The same exact thing, watch. Right up prime, right up, right up, right up prime, bring this back, flick, line it back up, and it's gonna solve, okay? So the practice pattern for this last one is basically this. I'll do it slow. Wait, let me do it again, sorry. It's like that. So the first thing, and I do it in groupings, like that, and then that's why it's even shown in parentheses, right? So I go like that. Then I grab it, flick, flick, bring it back, okay? Do it again. And last time, and then you'll get the pattern, it'll be faster, and you'll do it kind of like this. Like that, okay? So it's basically like that. And that's it. It's, your fingers will just know. Oh, oh. Okay, so once again, slow. And solid side and back. Oh, and last time. And faster. And a little bit faster. Yeah. I think this cube's a little bit better for... No, it's not. It's looser. These are GAN's magnetic cubes, by the way. They have little magnets on them. See that? I don't know if you can see it. This is, I forgot what they call it. This is the new one, the M Pro or 11 Pro or something like that. It's a little bit, it's more clackety, I guess, but you can feel the magnets. All those do is help line, like if you're spinning fast, they kind of snap to here a little bit, so it helps line it up is all. But that's it. You've just solved there's quite a bit to learn in the last one, okay? But I'm telling you, it looks horrible on paper, but it's really, really, really easy. Like that last one, you know, you just do that move over and over and over, right? I just think like right flick, then it's like, you know, right flick, boom. And your fingers will get used to doing the same pattern over and over and over. And if you do this in a pattern, I think it's 3 times and it solves itself. So that's how you can practice this. So it's a solved cube, okay? If I just do it, it's gonna unsolve, obviously, and then I think the 3rd time it solves again. So it's like this. Boom, okay? So once again, slow, it's boom, 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 boom. And it's almost musical. You kind of feel it like it's a beat or something, right? It's like boom, 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 right? It's hard to explain, but it is not. A lot of people think like that's a lot of memorization, but I'm telling you, you do this once and you forget about, like I mess up if I say to myself R up prime, right? Like your brain doesn't work like that. It literally works like the feel of your fingers, right? It's different. It's very hard to explain, but once you do it a couple times, you'll know exactly what I mean. That's why the cube's not that hard to solve. It's all in one sheet. These moves right here, you can solve the cube from start to finish. So that is my quick tutorial on how to do, I think it can be done in 3 days. The 3rd being the hardest, of course. You know, maybe that would take, put it this way. If you did day 1, day 2, and literally broke these down into 3, 4, 5, 6, you would solve the cube at least in a week, guaranteed. That's 1 move per day that you would guaranteed get. If you spent 20 minutes doing that same move over and over, you're gonna solve the entire cube in a week, guaranteed. If you really do it and practice it, I think you could do it in 3 days, easy. So that's it. Hope this helps. And sorry about that one mistake. Remember, that should be an L for the record, but the middle layer is really, really easy to memorize. That'll be the one you'll probably pick up the fastest. So let me know what you think. But that is I think, my method of how to get just anybody that wants to solve it in 3 days, or at least under a week. I think it's doable. Easy. So, alrighty.